Welcome to Mooney Reads. My name is Beck, and today I have quite a book haul. Over the month of December, I accumulated quite a few books. I went to a used bookstore nearby before Christmas, and then I got quite a few things with my Christmas money, a couple of things at the half-off hardcover sale at Barnes & Noble, and just some stuff because books. I'm going to try my best to go on a book buying ban, at least for the first few months of 2022, with the exception of things that I've already ordered and like sequels to things, which is mostly manga. So this was my last hurrah, at least for a moment. So I'm going to start with the books that I bought at the used bookstore. I'm going to talk about the couple of books that I got as Christmas presents, like specific books that people got me. And then I'm going to go through the rest of the books that I got by subject. So I'll get into the fiction that I got at the used bookstore. The first book that I have is Every Day by David Levithan. I think this is David Levithan's most popular book. I'm pretty sure they turned it into a TV show. David Levithan has a very special place in my heart as probably the first queer author, definitely the first YA queer author that I read, with Will Grayson, which he wrote with John Green, and then I went on to read some of his other stuff. And I've really enjoyed a lot of what I've read by him. There's only one that I have not liked. So I'm excited to get into this one. I also got Franny and Zoe by J.D. Salinger. This is the same author that wrote The Catcher in the Rye, and I really like Catcher in the Rye, and I've got a couple of friends who really liked Franny and Zoe, so I'm excited to get to this one. Then I got a couple of comics. Bitch Planet, volumes 1 and 2. Bitch Planet I actually heard about on BookTube. Within the first few months that I was on BookTube, I feel like I heard a couple of people bring it up, and I haven't seen much recently. This is set in space, but in this society, all of the women who step out of line are sent to their own planet, and I'm assuming they revolt. So I'm stoked for that. Another fiction novel that I got is Spontaneous Combustion by David Feinberg. Though this is fiction, it's definitely informed by the author's experiences if it's not like autofiction, because this focuses on a gay man with AIDS in New York, in ACT UP, which is what this author did. I actually have the author's memoir, Queer and Loathing, Rants and Raves of a Raging AIDS Clone. This has been on my HIV and AIDS TBR for a while, so I'm probably going to read them in conjunction with each other. I'm probably going to read Queer and Loathing first, and then Spontaneous Combustion. Then I got a couple of nonfictions. We have Love and Resistance, Out of the Closet and Into the Stonewall Era, which is a collection from the New York Public Library, from their archive. And this is actually more photographs, with like a little bit of description there. Oh, there's Marcia. There's a lot of good stuff. I'm excited about this, and I'm probably gonna read this in conjunction with the Stonewall Reader. I've read bits and pieces of the Stonewall Reader, but I'd like to read it from cover to cover, so more cute book pairings. Constructing a TBR that I may or may not follow, but that's pretty normal. I also got The Shared Heart, Portraits and Stories Celebrating Lesbian, Gay, and Bisexual Young People. This was published in the late 90s. So again, photographs. That's literally the cover, okay. And this has kind of a little bit longer like chapters or explanations than the other one has, but I think these are like from the people being photographed. This one was only 75 cents. Isn't that wild? So I did that before Christmas. And then I got a couple of books from people. This first book is actually technically for my cats, but it's technically in my book collection now, so I'm gonna haul it. A Catmas Carols. It's literally just Christmas carols, but like about cats or for cats. It's adorable. It's really adorable. And this was from Brent from Rad Reads and their fiance. They got Tonks and Remy that. Another book that I was gifted is The Key to Your Dreams, which is about dream interpretation. It has a dream like dictionary piece of it, but a lot of it is about dream interpretation too. I got this from my aunt. Those are the only two specific books that I was gifted, but I was given some book money, money that I chose to use on books, because what else would I use it on? And then also gave myself some book money that I can call a Christmas present for the sake of the book haul. So I'm going to talk about the books that I got. I'm going to start with talking about astrology books, then essays and history, and then poetry, then fiction. So, that's the trajectory. First, we have Chiron, Rainbow Bridge Between Inner and Outer Planets. This is about the asteroid Chiron, which, astrologically, is, kind of shows you places where you need to heal and how you can heal other people. That's my current understanding of it, and I got a whole book to understand more of it. Then I got a book about the moon, moonology, working with the lunar cycles. And then I got post-colonial astrology, reading planets through capital, power, and labor. I think that the subtitle tells you a lot, but I'll also read just a sentence from the back of it. Intersectional, inclusive, and geared towards queer and BIPOC communities, post-colonial astrology uses our historical and collective constructions of Venus, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Saturn, the Sun, and the Moon to rechart our subconscious history, redefine the body in the world, and assert our politics of the personal in astrology and all things. These three I definitely bought used online. Next, I can go into some of the more like essay nonfiction focused on society and history. First, I have All About Love by Bell Hooks. This is one that I've been thinking about getting for a while. Unfortunately, Bell Hooks passed away, and a lot of the quotes that I saw circling around were from this one, and seeing all of those definitely pushed me to go ahead and get the book. Then I have Spectrums, Autistic Transgender People in Their Own Words. So this is an anthology of autistic trans people and their experiences. Then I got Susan Sontag's journals. We have 1945 to 1963 and 1964 to 1980. If you've been around here for a while, you've heard me mention Susan Sontag. I got her biography a little while ago and I started reading it. Really was enjoying the biography and what it was saying about her and her perspective. But at the time, the only Sontag I'd read is AIDS and Its Metaphors and Illness as Metaphor. So I decided to go through her works and then read this. I have since read On Photography, but I started collecting her works, and I still need to get a couple of them, which I probably should have bought before the journals, but, it's fine. Against Interpretation and Other Essays, Styles of Radical Will, and At the Same Time. I still need to get a few more. I also have I, Etc., which is fiction, which I actually got on accident. I had ordered On Photography and received the wrong book. Which is fine because I'd like to read it, but the next book that I'm probably going to read by her is Against Interpretation, because I've decided to read them in chronological order, And technically, she published Freud, Mind of Moralists first. I just don't know if I want to read that. So I'm going to read this and we'll see. We'll go from there. So I can add these two friends to my Sontag TBR. Moving on from that, I have an Afro-Indigenous history of the United States, which is exactly what it sounds like. The history of Afro-Indigenous people. And I haven't really heard that many people talk about it, but I saw it come in and like immediately knew that I wanted to get it, particularly since this is written by an Afro-Indigenous historian. Then I got In Defense of Looting, a riotous history of uncivil action. This looks at the history of ownership and policing, as well as like the racism within that, the anti-Indigenous sentiments, and colonialism in general. The next nonfiction book that I got was We Do This Till We Free Us, Abolitionist Organizing and Transforming Justice. So this talks about police and prison abolition. So it's, you know, addressing the problem of police and prisons to a certain extent, but it's really about what abolition is. What is it to actually imagine a future free of the prison industrial complex? After that, we get into the poetry. First, I have an anthology, Resistencia, Poems of Protest and Revolution. This includes poems that were written throughout the 1900s and into the 2000s. The oldest people in here were born at the tail end of the 1800s. I also got the collection If They Come For Us by Fatima Asghar. This is written by a Pakistani Muslim woman. I honestly don't think I've heard very much about it, but I've been in love with the cover since the first time I saw it, and I've been eyeballing it for a really long time and finally got it. Then I have the collection XXX's Poems for a Nation by Raquel Salas Rivera. I listened to one of Raquel Salas Rivera's other poetry collections in November and really, really loved it. So I went ahead and ordered another one of their collections. And the final poetry collection that I have is We Will Be Shelter, Poems for Survival, which is a poetry anthology edited by Andrea Gibson, who's one of my favorite poets. And this collection focuses on social justice, advocacy, change, that sort of thing. So those are the poetry collections that I got. So last I have fiction. I got If Beale Street Could Talk by James Baldwin, which is a classic. I've only read one of James Baldwin's nonfiction books, which is an absolute crime. I need to read more of his stuff in general. So If Beale Street Could Talk is clearly next. Shifting genres to fantasy. I got The Witch King by H.E. Edgman. I'm excited about this. I've heard a lot of really good things from reviewers that I trust. It's trans, it's messy. I'm excited for it. Then I have a couple of graphic novels. I got Heartstopper Volume 4, which I've technically read since I keep up with the comic, but I still wanted to have the physical copy, and I'll hopefully do a reread. I think that would be fun. Then I have a manga, Love on the Other Side, which is a short story collection. And this is from the same mangaka that did Girl from the Other Side, which I really, really enjoyed reading. So I'm super stoked to get into this. Then finally, the last book that I have is The Sprite and the Gardener. And I have not heard very much about this. I saw it come in. I think one of my coworkers might have pointed it out at some point too, but the drawings are just really beautiful. Like look at that. I had to get it and it was half off, so I had no reason not to. So that's my haul. That's gonna be the bulk of my book buying for several months. Even when I'm off of the ban, I don't think I'm actually going to do any substantial book buying for a hot minute. But if you've read any of these, let me know, or if there are any that you think that I should prioritize reading first, also let me know about that. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye.